Okay, so this is the finished quilt. It's a big quilt, pretty well queen size. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Okay, good morning. So today we are working on this really pretty quilt. And we're going to do a limited custom quilting on this, which includes these these swirls in this purple sashing area. And then we're going to do a swirl in the center block, just a big, huge spiral, not a swirl, a spiral, and then feathers in this black area. And then the same feathers we'll do later in this green area, but I'm going to change color for that. So I thought I'd show you how I tackle a quilt like this. Again, I have a Gammill Vision 2 with an 18-inch throat, which means I have about a 12-inch deep sewing area that I can sew with. So limited custom for me means there's relatively little stitching in the ditch, and mostly freehand quilting. So I don't use rulers very much, very little stitching in the ditch, and designs that are pretty much repeated over and over in the same areas of the quilt. So let me show you how I do. Oh, well, before I show you how I tackle a quilt like this, because I float my quilts, which means I only attach the quilt top at the top, and I just let it drape over my long arm on the bottom. So I have to be really careful about stabilizing the quilt so that it doesn't move and shift as I quilt. So on this quilt, that means that I will do the purple sashing first and do these divisions between each block, and then this long sashing area that will keep the quilt from pulling forward. So once I have that stabilized, then I go in and attack the blocks. And so let's get started with that. So we're going to do the spiral in the middle. So we're going to start right in the middle. And I find that doing a spiral from the inside out is much easier for me than working from the outside in. So while I'm moving here, I am going to make sure that my presser foot, I want about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch spiral, more like a 1/2 inch. So I keep my presser foot about a 1/4 inch away from the previous line. And I am thinking round, round, round. Okay, now as we get to the outside, I am going to tack this down a little bit, and I'll pull out my ruler, straight edge ruler, in a minute here. So when I get to there, on a good day, I won't be wobbly. But I kind of just started quilting today, and when I start quilting, I am usually not quite as accurate as after I've been quilting for a while. So I'll pull that up. And back over here, round out this last corner, and I'm at my starting point for my feathers. So here we go. These are Heirloom Feathers, which is also known as bump back feathers. I prefer doing these. They're just my personal favorite. I like them more than the Longarm feathers because it just, for me, seems like I can fill odd spaces better with this bump back method than I can with the Longarm method. And this is just one of many different styles of feathers. So here we are in the corner. We can do one more of the spiral arcs and back to our feathers. Of course, the big thing about bump back feathers is you got a little bit of backtracking, which the more you do it, the better you get at backtracking on itself. Okay, I'm gonna come down here and do one more arc. And tie off. So that's it. We'll come back and do this green area with a different thread color, for more of a matching thread color. Because, yeah, see, that would be really dark against that green. So I found a medium, kind of a steel gray color that goes nicely in the purple, in the black, and in this area it stands out just enough so that I can see a little bit of the quilting, but not so much that it's going to be a contrasting color. But that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? All right, so I'll come back in a little while. Thank you. Okay, so we'll do one more of these blocks, and so again, start your spiral in the middle. Try and maintain your presser foot about 1/4 inch away from the previous circle, and just think round, round. I was so afraid of doing these spirals in the beginning, and I would doodle them, and I would be sweating bullets thinking, they'll never look good, you need a computer to do these. But you know, they are not that hard. All right, so let me stop for a minute. I like to tell you about the tools that I use, and this is a ruler by Beth Ann Nemish. It's part of her garden lines. I like it for a number of reasons. One, for especially what I'm doing here is trying to stitch in the ditch along portions of this inner fabric. This ruler has little wings on it, and what I like is that you can put these wings right on a seam line on both sides, and then you know that your presser foot is going to be exactly in that ditch. And if it isn't, then you need to move your fabric a little bit, and it will help you make an absolutely straight line where a straight line should be, because we all know sometimes we wiggle and wobble when we do our seams, and they're not always as straight as you can. Well, using this, it'll show you where those wiggles and wobbles are, and it will help you get a nice straight stitch in the ditch. I like also on this ruler, it is it's a cool looking glass. I don't know if you can see this, but this acrylic has a green tinge to it, which means that these etched lines, these aren't printed on, these are actually etched lines. They will show up on light fabric, on dark fabric, on busy fabric. I can see them no matter what the fabric is, and I have found that not the case in all rulers. You have 1/4 inch division lines, so if you want to do lines spaced exactly the exact distance apart, you can do that. And these little dotted lines are 1/8 inch rulers, 1/8 inch spacing. So for instance, if you want to do piano keys or beadboard, you can do an 1/8 inch and a 3/4 inch or something like that. So anyway, I like these rulers. Beth Ann Nemish, whitearborquilting.com. I'll put a link in the comments section. So, all right, enough about the ruler. Onward. Yay. All right. So again, line up your doohickeys so you can get right in the ditch. Go out until your ruler's about a 1/4 inch away from the previous line, and then arc it on over. And we're going to follow the ditch to the other side. Again, keep going until you're about a 1/4 inch away from that previous line, and arc down. Come up a 1/4 inch away, arc back, and go to the corner to start your feathers. Okay, and back in that corner, and we're off. So, I love feathers. I don't know if you've watched any of my other videos, but I especially love feathers. And if you go to Beth Ann's website, whitearborquilting.com, and look at her books, she has a book. Let me see if I can reach that. Check this out. There we go. All right. This is one of Beth Ann's books, Fast and Fancy Freehand Feathers. Take a look at that cover. Is that just not to drool over? Oh my gosh. She teaches a wide variety of feathers. Let me show you just an example. Hold on. I'm sorry. I should have been better prepared. You would think by now I would be better prepared when I want to show you stuff. But where is it? Oh, here's just one example. This is showing a very simple feather, and then you can get more and more elaborate. This book is filled with that. And on the cover here, you can see she's got just a variety of everything she shows in the book. If you want to get into quilting feathers, I highly, highly recommend this book. So anyway, she's also one of my most favorite teachers, along with being an award-winning quilter and artist for that matter. All right. All right, so we're back here. We're gonna pop down the seam until the foot's a 1/4 inch away, and then we're gonna do another swirl line across, find our ditch, and continue with the feathers. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at that. There's a little bit of room right here, but I'm going to butt up start the green feather there, and then otherwise this will get too cramped, so I'm not going to do that. So we have a little bit to fill in here yet, so I'm going to move the presser foot over in the ditch. We're a 1/4 inch away, and do my last spiral down. And that looks good, so that's it. I'm going to come back down in the ditch, and we're done with this block. So there you go. I'm going to show you a little bit later how I do these swirls, and then we'll do the outer border, and then I'll show you a picture of the completed quilt. So for now, this is it for now. Thank you. Okay, so here we are. I just advanced the quilt to the next set of blocks, the next row. And to do this purple sashing, I have to kind of wiggle the quilt forward and backward because, again, with my 18-inch throat space, I really don't have enough space to go across the bottom here and then all the way up to the other row of sashing at the top there. So you'll see me going back and forth a little bit. But what my customer and I decided for this quilt was to put some swirls in this sashing. And what I like to do, you know, there's different ways you can do this. I mean, there's swirls galore. And if you really like swirls, there is a free YouTube class by Angela Walters. It's one of her earlier free motion challenges, and the class is free. You just pull up the videos on YouTube, grab a couple pieces of muslin, put some, you know, put a sandwich together and practice. But she shows you regular feathers, hook feathers, concentric feathers, elongated swirl feathers, feather borders, feather fills. It is a truly amazing, amazing class. I think I made a dog bed out of my sample. That's what I do out of my practice pieces. I sew it into a big pillow, make a dog bed out of it, and donate it. But anyway, this is one of the swirls that changes direction, and it's a really easy one to do. And in this quilt, I'm choosing to do it just down the center of each sashing and not fill the sashing totally edge to edge. There's a previous video that I did, I can't remember the quilt, but I did the sashing edge to edge. I'm choosing not to do it in this one because I'm pulling the feathers all the way up to the edge, and curves on top of curves. I don't know, we just chose to leave them a little bit smaller. So okay, so we've chosen our swirl. Spacing a swirl on a sashing you can do in any number of ways. You can mark, and this is a handy dandy tool that in the beginning I used. Can you see this? This is a tailor's tool, and I used this in the beginning, and you can mark it. Okay, so I have a block that's this wide, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so using this, I would have used my little clover chalk marker, This just has, oh, it's already open, has tailor's chalk in it. And you can see it makes a line that then just, tailor's chalk is chalk that doesn't have any additives. It doesn't have any waxes or anything. It is just chalk. So it's one of the marking tools that I really don't hesitate to use. I use it quite a bit. I'm very satisfied with it because it won't stay. It is a pure powder. So even if you use a lot, and sometimes with my pounce, it gets a little heavy, but it washes out. If you can't brush it off, another thing to get chalk off your quilt is to use one of these. Remember gentlemen of old days, before there were dry cleaners used so extensively? They use these brushes, and it has kind of a, I don't know, satin velour thing, whatever, but it brushes off not just but stray threads, chalk, anything like that. So okay, this you can find in any quilt shop. It's readily available. So what I would do if I were using this, I would simply mark and put my swirls within, you know, swirl in within each, and that would help give me guidance. I've done swirls quite a bit, so I really don't, in most instances, don't mark swirl spacing anymore. I just like to use the quilt itself, the piecing in the quilt itself, to show me how far to extend my swirls. And in this quilt, from here to here, I've chosen to put 8 of these swirls. So I know that from there to there, I'm going to put 4. So from here to there, I'm going to put 2. And I just kind of eyeball it at this point. But in the beginning, I did mark. And in some cases, or even if I'm tired and not paying attention, or found a really good something to listen to, I will mark it. So don't hesitate marking. Just make sure you find a marking tool that you can be sure will come out. So okay, let's get going on some of these swirls. Oh, I will link Angela Walter's YouTube swirl free motion challenge in the comments below. So if you're interested at all in that, I'll put a link there. Okay, swirls. Yay. All right, I'm going to put one more here. Oh. And 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now I know I'm pretty good because I am halfway. Okay, so I know my spacing is pretty good. So when you practice, that's kind of what to look for if you're choosing not to mark. 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to extend this out a little because I got a little extra room. 8, and 1 break in the center, because if I put one right in the center, then I know no matter which direction I can tie into that center swirl, and it'll look seamless. So okay, so let's continue on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And yes, even if it weren't for the video, I would still count in my head because it helped me with my spacing. 5, 6. Alright, I'm getting really close. I'm going to bring the quilt forward a little bit. So we're at 6. I'll do it Well, even more because, so you can have it on the video. Okay, so we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to put 2 more in there. See how nice that space is? Now to come back, I'm just going to follow. You could tie off. Or, if you're good. Okay, hold on. I got to move my quilt back up. I know it's a little bit of a pain, but you know, I'm not bending over. I'm not reaching. And at the end of the day, my back is so happy with me. All right, so come back down. So here was that last swirl, right? So we went up, and now just like here, we're gonna take that point and 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're doing good with the spacing. We're halfway. 5, 6, 7, and draw that one out a little bit to fill the space, and 8. So we're going back here. Okay, because you would always change direction. Come back to this center point here, or in this case here. See, it's opposite that loop. It's opposite the loop. So opposite this loop is right there, and that's our jumping off point. And see, 1, go back, extra, 2, come back, next one, 3, come back, 4, and we're halfway. Our spacing is good. 5, 6, and we gotta move the quilt. I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of poofiness in here. And even the, you know, no matter how good a quilter you are, you're gonna have a little bit of fullness. There's just a team. This quilter, this lady who did this, is an amazing quilter. Her quilts are awesome. But even when really good, you're gonna get a little bit of fullness. And that's why I do the sashings first, so that any of the fullness can then be captured within each block consistently across the blocks. The only other way to do that would be to stitch in the ditch all your sashings on both sides. So because this is a limited custom, that doesn't include any more but very minimal stitching in the ditch. So doing the sashing quilting first stabilizes the quilt and keeps everything where it should be. So, all right, let's move on. 7, 8. Now we're going to follow that fine all the way back down. And if you're a little bit off, it doesn't matter as long as you're not far off, because look at that, it just adds more interest. It's really cool. Okay, so again, opposite this, we're going to come down here, and then we're going to change direction, go back up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're halfway. Good, our spacing is good. 5, 6, furs. Now let it bend a little bit. Six, seven. Alright, we're going to leave it at that. So, don't hesitate to do swirls. Swirls add an awesome sense of movement to any quilt. So, and in the outside border, when I show you that, we're going to tie it all together. The feathers in these black areas, the feathers that went in there, we're going to tie that together with the swirls, all in that outside border of this quilt, and I'll show you that in the next video. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're on the last part of this quilt. We're going to finish this outer border and tie it all together. We're doing a feather border and tying in the swirls from the purple area as well as the feathers from the black area, and doing a swirl feather and a regular feather, a swirl feather and a regular feather. So here goes. And I think the trick with feathers is to keep them fluid and clean. And by fluid, I mean nice, curvy, round. And because this is such a kind of a wild and crazy fabrics in this quilt, I'm doing kind of a little, not your standard heirloom, but just kind of doing something funky, just to stay within the nature of the quilt. Now on the outside edge of your borders, stay a good ½ inch or more away from that outside edge, so that when the owner of the quilt puts the binding on, it's not, your quilting isn't going to get cut off. So it's always better to have a little bit of extra space than to cut off part of the quilting. So in feathers especially, that's kind of a big feather. Again, you know, there's so many, the quilt police isn't gonna come get you if your feathers don't all look alike. And actually, for free motion quilting, I think the more variety you build into your feathers, the more awesome it would look. Now, with that said, I would never, well, never say never, right? I doubt that I would do something as kind of wild like this on a very traditional, especially very traditional heirloom kind of a quilt. But on this, with this wild fabric in these wild colors, this is perfect. So, big feathers, little feathers, fat feathers, skinny feathers, short feathers, tall feathers. It really doesn't matter, as long as they have those beautiful curves and they look like they belong. I don't know. You develop your own style for feathers. I tend to like this. I think the more wacky, the more unique, the better. You can stack feathers, certainly. So have fun with your feathers. Now what I did there where I crossed over, right there where my feather crossed over, I try not to do that. But sometimes you just get going. But try and avoid that. Keep your feather spine nice and clean. I think the cleaner your spine looks, the prettier your overall feather is gonna look. Hold on a minute. Okay, sorry about that. I've been quilting all day today. It is about, 3 o'clock. I've been quilting since 9 o'clock this morning. And, my back's saying, hey, hello, do you remember me? And have you seen those weighted back braces? I'll show you later. I got a little ahead of myself, so we're going to backtrack on that spine. It's basically a pair of suspenders with a bunch of weights attached. And you would think when your back is tired that those weights would make you feel worse, but oh my God. It makes my back feel better. It's supposed to make you have better posture. And I don't know if it pulls my shoulders back or just repositions the weight on my back. But once I put that on, I can go another few hours. It's really amazing. Another thing that really helps me is to do some stretching exercises. Maybe I'll do a video on that down the road. Doing some really big feathers here. And I think it's okay to intermix stacked feathers with, feathers side by side. Again, I think it adds interest. Just whatever do you do, make it clean, make it fluid. You see that short one there is going to look fine. I'll put one there. And we'll stack one right there and then put one side by side. Do the same thing over here. Kind of a complementing. Yeah, I'll be feeling it. So the spine, you can see that the spine is already here. I did one pass. Oh, I'm out of bobbin. So let me turn this off for a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Fixed my bobbin. So I was saying, the spine. In a different video, I showed how I do the spine. So check that out. But basically, I do one complete pass around the quilt, stitching down just the spine. And then once I have the spine down, then I come back and go around the quilt one more complete time, adding the feathers. So it takes 2 passes, but I think it makes for a pretty finish, and going around the quilt is definitely, in my opinion, a lot easier than doing the top and the bottom, rotating the quilt, and doing that. I would rather, go traveled up for, advance the quilt and that kind of thing, rather than have to take it off the rollers and reload it. So now we're at the corner. That was a little close to the edge. Try and stay a quarter. Quarter's too close. Try and stay a good 1/2 inch away from the edge. So when the binding is on, binding's going to take up a 1/4 inch. Then you've got another 1/4 inch at least of free space, and that free space really helps draw the eye appropriately, so you can see what's going on. And see how pretty that Alright, so we are done with the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and go up the sides, but I'm going to do that without you. And then I'll do one more video. I'll probably put that at the beginning of what you're going to see, just to show you the whole quilt when it's all done. So thank you for hanging in there with me. This has been another fun one. If you have any questions or comments, please post them. And please hit that thumbs up, that like, and even subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, showing you how I quilt the different variety of quilts. I do quilt for hire. I quilt quilts for others. I have a website, www.quiltsbyhannelore.com, and there's a link down in the comments. But if you want to see more videos like this, help me out. Hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button. I would very, very much appreciate that. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye. It's kind of hard to see how the border turned out. That looks cool too. what the back looks like. I love the back that this customer chose.